Hey, Cher here, and I know what you're thinking. This should have gone out during the 12 days of anime last year, but here's the excuse. Christmas time is the worst time for my day job, so I was already struggling to get out 12 days of anime videos as it is, so I'm just happy that after I finished the Back to the Billboards videos for 2021, that I could get to this finally. So, for this, favorite anime of 2021, I originally thought of doing it as a top 13 list or a top whatever list of how many anime that I actually finished and enjoyed, but it doesn't exactly suffice how I felt about each anime exactly, so I put them into 3 categories. The first category I will discuss is anime that I wanted to like more than I actually did. And these picks might be controversial to some people, but these are my opinions, and I'll try to explain them as thoroughly as I possibly can. So the first anime that's on my wanted to like more than I actually do list was Horimiya.
堀さんですよね、1組の。
あなた、同じ学校？
I know, I'm gonna get so much hate for this pick, or why I put it so low at the bottom of the list, because I consider it more like an honorable mention, if anything else. Oh my god, it's one of the best romance anime ever to come out, and I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty good at what it does. Horimiya, I think, is a classic among romance anime. I mean, it was a classic when the manga came out, so how could it not be a classic when the anime comes out? So, I was reading the manga way before I knew that the anime was going to come out. So, when I heard the anime was coming out, I was ecstatic, because I really enjoy the manga series. So, for those of you who don't know what Horimiya is, and I'd be surprised if you don't know what it is, this is a love story that takes place between I wouldn't call her a model student, actually. She's sort of like your average high school student. Her name is Hori, and at school, she presents herself to be not posh exactly, but just your average student. She gets decent grades, she does fine, but then while she's at home, her parents are not usually at home that much, so she's the one cleaning the house, she's the one babysitting her little brother, who's in elementary school, or middle school, I think, I don't know. But she's basically the caretaker while her parents are either out working or off somewhere else. But then she has a classmate named Miyamura. In the school, he's usually the quiet one, he usually stays away from people, he's a shut-in, people think he's the otaku type, he doesn't really talk that much. So one day, she gets a knock at the door, she's wondering where her little brother's at because he's either at school or just hanging out somewhere. But a stranger brings Hori's little brother home from school. And she's like, oh, thank God, I was so worried about you. But then that stranger actually turns out to be Miyamura, her classmate. But the difference between his quiet appearance at school is outside of school, he has long hair. He has tattoos. He has piercings. So Hori was absolutely shocked to know that this is the same exact person who's usually super quiet in her class. So Hori takes this information actually rather well. She's like, the more you know, I guess. And I mean, well, it's not like she's that innocent either, because she's basically hiding herself as well from the rest of the school. They don't want, or she doesn't want her friends especially to know her family situation or her home situation either. So she's like, well, I can't really say anything. But basically from this interaction that they have, Hori and Miyamura, they visit Hori's apartment a lot, or he comes to visit her a lot. And they often have conversations basically about, their outside of school situations, or they do homework.
Is everything okay?
Oh yeah, everything's fine. You know how guys can be. No worries.
What up, what up?
Die!
And basically from these interactions, it starts to fade, onto the school property. They start talking, to which Hori's friends are like, you're talking to Miyamura? That's strange. Because they don't get what's going on either. But during the anime, they sort of welcome him into the friend group as well, because they start understanding what's happening. And from the side characters, which I'm gonna be flat out honest with you, the side characters are kind of boring. Like, you get to understand, like, everyone's situations inside and outside of school. Like, this anime's importance to Japan is pretty relevant, because it basically discusses, like, individuality versus, doing, like, the same thing as everyone else does. This is what high school really looks like. Which, if you know anything about, like, Japanese education, you would understand that. I really wanted to like this anime more than I do, for this reason. I kind of don't like what they do to Miyamura as a character, because, for one thing, when I first saw him in the manga when I started reading it years ago, I loved his appearance. Like, it's not your usual, like, romantic male lead look. Like, he's an outcast, but he's an outcast who wears piercings, which goes against, like, Japanese society rules. He has tattoos, which is very against Japanese society rules, because normally the people who have tattoos are in the Yakuza, which Miyamura is not, but there's still the stigma that is there. Like, he has long hair, which people don't, like, they look at people with long hair pretty strangely. Like, to basically make himself fit in more, he has to be a shut-in at school, basically, like, I'll just do my own thing, I try to get decent grades, I just try to live on with my life. That's what Miyamura does. And from the beginning, I really like him. Like, I like his personality, and you start to learn more about why he does the things he does, which I really appreciate. But then when you get more into the anime, he starts changing his appearance to make himself more appealing to everyone else. Like, he cuts his hair short, he stops wearing piercings. I don't think they explain anything about the tattoos. I think he just hides them, which is fine. But he completely changes his appearance, like, halfway through the series. Like, this is the part, like, I don't want to spoil too much for those who haven't read it or haven't seen it yet, because a lot of stuff goes down in the show. But in, like, episode 3 or episode 2 or something, Miyamura meets Hori's dad, and Hori's dad, he also has long hair, he looks like a degenerate, and he looks at Miyamura, and he goes like, your hair's too long. And then Hori's like, oh, shut up, your hair's long, I don't care. But then Miyamura, because he doesn't want to anger or make Hori's father mad or disapprove of him, he's like, oh, I'll cut it, I swear. So I get why he cut it, because of what Hori's dad said. But even then, Hori's just like, I don't care about his hair. Like, stop it. And you can tell that Hori, like, wears the pants in the family, because she's not giving into that. And she honestly could have cared less. So if they had kept Miyamura's hair, or, like, made it more, like, kept, like, that would have been fine. I would have been completely fine with it. But no, they just had to, like, trim it off to make it look like your generic, like, male lead style. And I'm like, that's just boring. Miyamura went from interesting to boring, like, in the span of 12 episodes. And that made me so mad. And then also Hori went from being an interesting character to boring as well, because when you start focusing more on the side characters, like, halfway through the series, you start to forget that Hori and Miyamura as a couple exist. And that's what made me mad too. And I read the entire series of this while the anime was airing. I forgot how many volumes there are of it, but I think it's like 15 volumes of the book. I get why they do it. Like, I get why the story goes as it goes, but it just goes from an interesting premise to another cliche romance very quickly. And for me, that really doesn't do it. Like, I just wish it had more, or at least it kept, like, in my opinion, they should have kept its focus on Hori and Miyamura. Like, the side characters can be there too, but don't let them have special episodes, because, oh my god, they are so boring. Like, every single time they go to the side characters and their interactions, when they're not interacting with the main characters, they're so bland. Like, if you guys like them, that's fine with me. But I just don't like the side characters. And with romance anime, when you have so many side characters to deal with, it's very hard to create, like, unique characters, because they all have to fit in a stereotype for something. And if they're just like stereotypes and oh, like they have an interaction with like this character for some reason, like you have to make it good. It's very, very, very hard to make side characters that are interesting in romance anime. With Fruits Basket, at least they make the other family members and Toru's friends interesting. They actually make them their own molds. At least it made me feel like, oh, they're worth giving a damn. But in Horimiya, not so much. I don't even remember their names. So, yeah. So I'm sorry to the folks who I offended by this Horimiya rant, but yeah, if I had to put anything on the very bottom of the list, it's that show. And then the next anime that I really wanted to like more than I did, the English title is My Senpai is Annoying.
Igarashi. Oh!
武田先輩びっくりした先輩がうざい
So I went into the show thinking, oh, this is going to be like a funny romance comedy, I guess, of sorts, because you have this like up and coming, like just graduated from college businesswoman who's starting out in the world, and all she wants to do is to be that example businesswoman in Japan. And again, this show is very, very Japanese based. So if you know anything about Japanese culture, you'll get what I'm saying. Like all she wants to do is to please her boss and move up in the ranks. And then she has her senpai, basically her more tenured coworker, who's mentoring her and stuff. Like, I guess this is where the part of My Senpai's Annoying comes in, because the mentor in this case, he's just happy, like happy-go-lucky, and all he wants to do is make sure that every one of his coworkers is doing okay and the business is flowing, that his boss is happy. Basically, giving like a cheery like atmosphere in the office, to which this is not what the main character is expecting. And because this coworker or this mentor, and the reason why I don't remember their names at all is because I forgot the show very quickly after I watched it, because I was like, okay, I thought this would be memorable, but it's not. So you have the main character who's just like, I want to like this guy because he does all these nice things for me, and he does like all these nice things for her, not only because that's what coworkers do, that's what also friends do, and then later on down the line they sort of have a connection going, but like just because she's so stuck in her like typical Japanese ways, well, I don't want to say that like it's bad, because I know the show's for the Japanese, because anime is Japanese animation, so duh. Like, she's so stuck in that like typical socialized way that she's like, oh my god, why do you have to be so happy all the time? You should be serious. And don't get me wrong, like, this mentor knows exactly what he's doing. That's why he's been working in the company for quite a while, and that's why he has like a good promoted like status in the company. He knows exactly what he's doing, and he knows when to incorporate that seriousness. Like, he and her have presentations they have to do for their clients. He's in full serious mode at that point, to which shocks the main character, because when she first met him, he was not like that. But when she sees him in action, she's like, oh, okay, so he does have a serious side. So basically, so not only is this like a comedy slice of life, or romance, it's also a slice of life show. So you get to see these two characters interact with their coworkers, or see the company environment. And what I also like about this show is that the boss, like the head boss of the department that they're in, he's actually a really nice guy. Because usually when you have like, oh, you work in an office like this, the boss is usually so mean, grumpy, old-fashioned, nasty kind of type. But no, he's actually nice, friendly. Like, he cheers his employees on. Like, he tells them that they should do their best. And I like that approach. What made me like slowly, not exactly not like, but like what made me annoyed with the show is multiple things. One, in the middle of the series, it starts getting very fan servicey for no reason whatsoever. I guess like they did not have any other ideas for jokes in the show, so they aim for fan service. Like, and they also rely on like your usual tropes. Like, oh, you have the emo coworker, you have the bubbly best friend, or you have the quiet female coworker who's kind of creepy, because you need that. And for the main characters, like, she's obviously shorter than the others, so she gets pointed out as like the child, butt of the joke. And because she's short, she has like a temper problem, which I'm like, they do this in every single anime for a short character. For the shortest character, it doesn't have to be like like an extremely short character than in the others. It could be like an inch shorter than everyone else. And they give them a temper problem. And as fun as this show was, it was very tropey and it got kind of old kind of fast. And unlike Horimiya, there's two side characters who start dating like midway through the series, and I actually like them. Like, in comparison to the Horimiya side characters, at least they were given enough personality and enough crux of a side story for them for you to get hooked on these characters. I can't remember their names, mind you, but I actually did like their dynamic. And I wanted to like the main character and her mentor's dynamic too. I don't exactly dislike them together. It's just I'm kind of sick and tired of the main character's bullcrap all the time. Because she acts tsundere like on purpose, as if to say, oh, thanks for helping me, but it was not like I asked for it or anything. Like, tsundere characters are very hard to pull off, and if they're your basically crutch to an already, like, tropey character as it is, I'm just like, oh, for the love of Pete. And I just think that the mentor guy kind of deserves better. That's what I think, anyway. So, yeah, I honestly don't know why I put my senpai's annoying higher than Horimiya, but I guess it does have a plus to it, but is it going to be memorable? Nah. Like, I've watched Lost Paws for a super long time, and even Noble himself kind of forgot that My Senpai's Annoying existed, because he's the kind of channel where it's like, oh, he does like memes every week, and slowly every week you start realizing like what trends are coming in and what trends are fading. My Senpai's Annoying faded pretty quickly. Because soon as the new season comes around and, like, there's a new, like, I don't know, what is it, like, waifu character to be the mascot of the season, that's all they're gonna focus on until the next thing. Like, this season right now, it's the My Dress Up Darling girl. That's all they're gonna be focused on. But as soon as, like, I don't know, Shield Hero Season 2, Season 3 comes out, they're gonna be obsessed over the raccoon girl again. I'm just being honest, that's all that it's gonna be. So, away from that, we're going to move on to the second category of anime, which is going to be more plentiful. I call this the comfort anime. So, I like these regardless of their quality, because these anime could be meh, like somewhat subpar, or good, but I consider them my comfort watches during the season. And the first comfort watch, I actually just finished this recently because reasons, I have a story to go along with this, was Pretty Boy Detective Club.
You looking for something?
The ambiguously named Pretty Boy Detective Club is a clandestine organization that supposedly exists at Yubiwa Academy, the private middle school that I attend.
And I watched Pretty Boy Detective Club all in the English dub, and I kind of regret this, because this series almost has a tonal problem. It's like, I think you could tell this show was meant for teenagers, because most, if not all, the characters are like in middle school, so they're all 14 years old. But they're all obviously voiced by adult people, so it's kind of jarring because you have to remember, oh, these are middle school kids, but they're voiced by like people in like their upper 20s or 30s. So it's so weird. Like, I kind of wished I watched the Japanese dub. Like, I have regrets. Like, well, I tried watching Pretty Boy Detective Club the first time when it first aired. I don't know why I did not watch the full, or the first episode in full at that point. I just thought the premise was, like, so dumb. And I think at the time, people gave it a lower score than it has right now. It's, like, a little over 7.10 on my anime list right now. Because, it's basically Defense Club Love again, but it's a mystery anime, and it has some fantastical elements, but not much, but it's kind of set in a realistic setting, if you know what I mean. It's kind of like that anime from, like, 2014, but it's middle schoolers, and they're all, like, I don't want to call them femboys, that's not what I want to say. They're all, like, one of the characters is a trap. Almost, but not really. I watched this show, like, in the span of 2 days. And the reason why I did that was because, I'm gonna go on a big tangent here, so forgive me. So, what happened was, recently, I got into a mobile game called Twisted Wonderland. And for those of you who don't know what that is by now, it's basically Disney created a version of Obey Me / Harry Potter meets Percy Jackson or something. I don't know. But it incorporates the original creator of the Black Butler series. So Disney, Aniplex, and this mangaka came together and they created this Harry Potter like anime like high school game where basically the students who go to this school are all inspired by the Disney villains. And me being a Disney fan, I thought that's really cool because we don't really get a lot of villain material. So this came out in Japan like in 2020. And what I found out this via YouTube because people were posting the opening like music video to the Twisted Wonderland game, and the song is a bop, is a complete and utter bop, by the way. And when I found out this was a Japan only release during COVID, mind you, I was so mad. Like, how does Disney release an anime game but not release it to the United States? I was mad. But then like 2 months ago, out of nowhere, I get advertisements on Instagram basically saying, hey, pre-download this game right now. Like, the game's coming to America. Then the world was right again. And I started playing the game. And, but I'm losing track here. So, one of the seiyus of the game is a little-known voice actor in the anime community. He's mostly known for supporting character work. His name is Taito Ban. And Taito Ban voices my favorite character in Twisted Wonderland. His name is Jack Howell. He's in the Lion King Scar house. He is gorgeous. He is gorgeous. Like, you do not cross this man. Like, you just don't do it. So, when I found this out, and I found out that he was also a main character in Pretty Boy Detective Club, I was like, okay, I have to see this man at work. So I watched actually the first episode in the original Japanese dub. He plays the character with the white hair. He's the he's the school student council president, but he's the vice president of the Pretty Boy Detective Club. Like, I cannot they said his last name so many times in the show, but it's so long I can't remember it. I don't have regrets watching this because this is basically Ouran High School Host Club meets Mystery meets Sherlock Holmes. Like, basically, the president of the club, the blue-haired guy, Uda, I think that's his last name? I can't remember. But anyway, he's the leader and kind of the most annoying of the bunch, but he's basically your Tamaki of the group. Like, he's the one who, wants to keep this club going. He's the go-getter of everything. He basically calls the shots. Very Tamaki, type of character. You have your main, oh my god. I'm an Ouran fan person. How am I forgetting her name? I'm so stupid. Haruhi. Basically, your Haruhi, she's the purple-haired girl. Her name's Mayumi. I do remember that because they say Mayumi's name over and over and over again. That's how I know. She's basically your Haruhi Fujioka of the show. It's she comes into the show basically as the first mystery, and then she continues as basically the main foil, and she has this superpower in which, her eyesight's so good that she can see the smallest details and everything, so despite her being a girl, they let her into the detective club anyway because they say she's a really good asset, which she ends up being a good asset. And basically the show is about the boys and Mayumi going through all these shenanigans, and even shenanigans that 14-year-olds should not be dealing with, in order to either protect the school or protect the students in it. Or even protect themselves, actually. I don't want to spoil of what goes down exactly, other than Mayumi has this strange power they kind of hint it in episode 1, But then, like, in episode 2, they start explaining it more. The best thing I could describe about this show is basically, I think Pretty Boy Detective Club was an experiment, or as to present the message of childhood should not be a thing that you just give up in high school. There's a little childhood in every single one of us, and that's where the total problem comes in. Because, obviously, this show sounds like it was made for teenagers going through middle school to high school. But it also has, like, this Sherlock Holmes narration because this was originally a novel series. You have Mayumi going through this, like, very deep dialogue about certain situations, about why she can deduce this from that. And it sounds like very, like higher teenagers and then adults would understand what's going on here. It's like younger teenagers wouldn't exactly understand, like, how Mayumi can make this up out of the blue. So the show, like, the message and the scenarios sound like it's for adults, but then, like, some of the conversational dialogue is for younger teens. Like, I don't know if this is just the English script being that sucky, and there's a translation issue with that, or the show has, like, a total problem. But it's just, like, this show was just so bizarre that a lot of moments were, like, super funny. To me, like, the characters were obviously very enjoyable to watch, the mysteries were actually really interesting, and trust me, it's very hard for me to get into mystery anime. Like, my favorite mystery anime is Go Sick, and it took me a long time to get into Go Sick. But Pretty Boy Detective Club, I'd say, if you are new to anime and you want some interesting mysteries and also, like, pretty boys to look at, I'd say I recommend you put the show on the background, I guess. But is it something to take seriously? No. That's why I put it in my comforts. The next one that I have up from Pretty Boy Detective Club is called I Chew Halfway Through the Idol.
ステージはアイドルの晴れ舞台だ。俺はまだアイドルじゃない。アイドルの卵。アイドルの途中。俺たちは。
Now, I think this is, like, the show that I have on my list that is the, like, worst rated out of everything. Like, I think this is, like, in the 0.6 range out of 10. And here's my thing. Yes, it's another one of those musical anime that came from a mobile game, and it's sort of a Love Live ripoff, but I don't think it's that bad. Like, I've tried to watch a lot of idol mobile game, like, type of anime stuff, and I've seen shows that look and sound worse than Aichu does. Like, the animation for Aichu is great. The music, I adore, and I wish they continued on with this series, or at least I hope they're going to continue it, because I think it deserves way more credit than it's getting right now. Like, I think also the main other problem is it has too many characters to count, and that's a lot of problem with these idol animes, is that they have so many characters and so many, like, subunits, so many groups that you have to keep track of that you just don't remember them all. Like, hell, I can envision, like, the main group in my head, but I also can, the other groups that I also envision are the foreigners, because, well, they did that on purpose, the foreigners, and then also, like, the art students. And then there's also this, like, Yohane from Aqua's style, like, group, like, Victorian, like, Edgar Allan Poe type group. I think they're one of the least memorable, but their concept is something that I do remember. Like, these characters are, like, so weird. So the basis of the series is, like, you get to know, it's basically an advertisement for the game, but the problem is the original Aichu game is Japanese exclusive only, so you can't really purchase it unless, like, you can hack in the Japanese system or something. It's a character dive, and the show makes the characters really interesting. Like, you know their backgrounds, you know their backstories, you know the reasons why they're at this school, because it's another school anime, but they're idols, and they're trying to make it out there, you know? Like, and there's so many characters that are so appealing, like, you can find your favorites pretty quickly. Again, I just wish they had more to do. And I think they do have a YouTube channel somewhere, but I don't know. I cannot tell you that to save my life. But if you want to get into, like, idol music anime, I do think that Aichu should be one of the ones you should start with. I mean, obviously, I'm going to recommend you Love Live to save my life, but Aichu, I think, is also a really good one to start. Speaking of idols and music stuff, we get to the next show, but the next show is also kind of controversial. So, it's Kakeki Shoujo.
それは瞬く間に人々の心を捉えた。数年後、豪華歌劇音楽学校を設立。美しく聡明な女子しか。
Basically, what Kakeki Shoujo is what Review Starlight should have been, but it takes itself way more seriously, and it's done so much better. And I think it's because it does take itself seriously that it's so much better. So the premise of this show is that, now I'm gonna forget the characters from this show too, oh my god. So there's this blue-haired girl who used to be a pop idol, a J-pop idol. And due to an incident with a male fan, she basically has to graduate, aka she's fired from the idol group that she was a part of. And in order for herself to regain her career, she has to go to this prestigious performing arts school to basically regain her education, and then she can find herself a new career path. And while she's at the school, she meets a very tall, blonde-haired girl. She's basically your eccentric. She basically wants to be like the greatest actress ever, but there's a very specific role that she wants to, but the very problem is that she's too tall to play the character, despite this character being male. I would explain how this performing industry in Japan works, but it's very complicated, and I kind of don't have the time because I already spent too much time explaining what Twister Wonderland was, so I don't have the time explaining this concept either. So this performing arts school, these two girls, like the blonde-haired girl wants to be this blue-haired girl's friend, but this blue-haired girl basically just wants to be a loner. She basically wants to compete by herself. She doesn't want to make friends, and this school is also very competitive in its own right, so it's kind of hard to build friendships here anyway. And despite this anime being a journey between these two girls becoming friends and then reaching the goals that they're after, this anime also tackles, like, the sexism and the abuse and the hardships that these female, like, actresses to be, like, have to deal with in order to achieve their dreams. Like, you actually see these girls break down because of the stresses of this anime. And when I say, like, this is controversial, it's controversial in the fact that this show actually dives deep into the negatives of the acting industry and the performing arts industry in Japan. I mean, don't get me wrong, this is important. And I think what makes it more difficult to stomach is that it's done in this very, it's something remnant of, I guess, like, 1970s, 1980s animation style. It's very cutesy. Like, the girls are, like, very, like, pointy chin and, like, instead of, like, smooth, it's, like, angular shaped. So, like, you can tell it was... Actually, when did the manga for this come out? Okay, so the beginning of the 2010s, so it came out in 2012. So, yeah, you kind of get the idea of what the animation style was like. But what I do love about this show is that despite, like, all of this crap that they go through, you do see, like, the reasons and then these goals or in these dreams that these girls have in mind. It's like, yes, it's bad for now, but then they also have, like, supportive teachers that are gonna help them there. Like, there's actually a few teachers that are like, okay, this, like, tight-shipped style is not working. You're gonna end up hurting these girls more than you think. And even though there are some old-fashioned teachers that are like, if they're serious about it, they would take it. And then some of these other teachers are like, what makes them not serious? If they were not serious, they would never have applied and got into the school in the first place, wouldn't they? So even, like, the adults in this situation know that some of these unnecessary things are unfair, but it's because of a old-fashioned like system. It's like, hey, it's worked before, it's going to work now. So you have new mentality versus old mentality as well. And it just combines together in a fantastic consomme of a meal, if you know what I'm saying. So if you do want a serious anime that goes into the entertainment industry of Japan, this is perfect for you. Well, at least I enjoyed it very much, indeed. But I will warn you that there are some triggering topics in there. Like, there are some of these girls who do end up, or almost end up, like, having body health issues in some episodes. And there's also, like, assault that happens in the show. So if that stuff triggers you, I highly recommend that you don't watch it, or at least you enter it with caution. But otherwise, I highly suggest that you watch this show. It's fantastic.
Okaeri. ただいま。寂しいも楽しい。楽しいも寂しい。心は止まっていられない。
So the next one I have on my list is called Remain.
その日僕は意識を取り戻した。本当にやってたんだな、水球。全然覚えてない。
And Remain is, I think, the only sports anime that I have on here? Well, technically there's another one, but I don't count that as sports. I count that as sci-fi, but I'll get to that when I get to that. So this is the only sports anime that I have on this list. And it's not about baseball. It's not about basketball. It's actually about water polo. Now, did I ever think that I was going to watch an anime about water polo? Absolutely not. Did I enjoy it? Absolutely. So the main character of this anime was a middle school water polo prodigy. He was about to go into the finals. He was about to get scholarships to high schools. He's going to have a fantastic career. But then he ends up in a car accident, which gives him a terrible case of amnesia / memory loss. So everything that he had in his middle school years, as he enters his first year of high school, he can't remember any of it. And because this car crash was so bad, he also forgot how to play water polo, and he's basically lost all of his skill at water polo. However, when he goes back into the main school system, of course everyone remembers him as like the fantastic like water polo genius, and at the school he attends to, their water polo team is basically non-existent. So they want this guy on their team because that would give them the greatest advantage. But little do they know is that, oh yeah, he has amnesia, and now he doesn't remember how to play. And he kind of sucks. Because he doesn't remember how to play. And everyone's like, oh god, this is gonna be bad. But unlike every other sports anime, there are plot twists left and right with this show, which kept me on the edge of my seat. Every single time. And unlike every other sports anime where everyone else is just generic, all of the characters here, especially I think the head, like the head coach, or like basically the head of the team, have a very interesting dynamic. They all have reasons why they want water polo. They have all the reasons why they want to go into this. And the main character especially, like the reasons why he wants to go back into it and what he wants to change about what he did before. It's just so intriguing how it like reinvents people with this show. It's kind of like watching the like water polo version of Slam Dunk. Like, I can't spoil what exactly happens with this show either, because the plot twists are like, I think they're better than like Shamalama Ding Dong could ever do. If you ever want to watch a sports anime that's not cliche, that it's not generic, that it's not boring whatsoever, Remade is like the last definition of boring. It is like I said, the plot twist will keep you on your seat. The characters are actually endearing, so I highly recommend it as well. And then the last of my comfort anime is another idol show. that's called Selection Project.
アイドルを目指す少女たちの最大の登竜門。全国アイドルオーディションセレクションプロジェクト。
And Selection Project is kind of interesting because this also came with like small controversy because they say that Selection Project basically stole like the plot of another anime show that came out around the same time. But the very interesting thing of that is, for it being like a quote-unquote ripoff, both of these shows have very similar scores on my anime list. Regards of it being like, oh, which one's better and which one's like worser is kind of not in the conversation because they have the same rating for almost the same reasons. So with Selection Project, it's sort of a competition. It's not sort of. It is a competition idol anime show. So the main girl is Suzune, who throughout her childhood has been very sick and has been battling with like a heart condition. And all that she wants to do is follow the footsteps of like her favorite idol of all time because she loves singing and being an idol is what she always wanted to do. So there's a competition called the Selection Project, which basically was the competition that made Suzune's favorite idol the idol that she was. But of course, this show is also done in this idol's honor because after she got really famous, she unfortunately got killed in a car crash. So basically, every season of the Selection Project is in honor of this one idol. And they do it in like the tradition and the honor of this one idol. So Suzune goes to audition, and it turned like while she's performing, everyone loves her performance because her singing, her performance is fantastic. What ends up being a problem is that due to her heart condition, she sort of blacks out and passes out in the middle of her performance. But once she realizes what happened, she does get back up and continues performing. But it's because she passed out that it costed her too many points, so she ended up being second place in her region to her friend who's studying abroad, who did end up winning that spot. But that friend was like, I gave the most subpar performance I could ever give. And yet you performed, despite what happened, you performed so much better, but they didn't give you the position. Like, she wasn't going to handle that. So the friend actually gives Suzune the spot because she uses the excuse of, oh, I'm going back to America, so I'm not going to be able to perform. So she gives Suzune the spot. And Suzune goes to this, what looks like a resort where the competition's taking place. And she's going to basically be the region representative for this competition. And she meets all the girls there who, like, they all have, like, some stereotype to another, but they actually have, like, characteristics underneath. Like, you have basically the childhood actress, like, the child actress there. You have the rich girl with the cat ears, like, something dumb. You have the athletic type. You have the oldest girl who's, I think, is, like, in her, like, 12th year of school, like, the last year of high school or something like that, who's, like, the mother of the group. Like, you have the girl who likes fortunes. But then you also find out, like, the other girl there, who was also one of the most popular girls there, turns out to be the younger sister of the idol who had passed away. And oh my god, I hate this girl so much because she enters this competition. Like, I get that she wants to keep the legacy of her sister alive, which is why she's doing this, but she has to be, like, the world's biggest bitch about it. And even, like, after, like, you start understanding why she acts the way she does, she still acts like the way she does, even without reason. And I just can't stand her. Like, I want to stab myself in the face every time she's on screen. I just don't like her. And Suzune and this girl do end up making, like, a duet subunit in the competition together, because a part of the competition is you get paired up into subunits based on, like, things that you like, and you have to perform as a group together in order to, like, make it further into the competition. Like, you have to make enough fans on your subunit pages in order to get further. That's part of the show. And these two end up getting a subunit together based on dumb luck. And you would think that these two would not get along whatsoever, and they don't. But because you have Suzune, who's fantastic at singing, and then you have the sister of her favorite idol performing together, who's also fantastic. Of course, they're gonna rank up fans in no time flat. That's what, like, it's just perfect casting, but also a perfect way of saying, oh my god, these girls hate each other, they were gonna kill each other. But this, and again, this is another idol show where it's more of a character dive rather than a plot-driven thing. So you really have a connection with these girls. And I do kind of understand how they compare this to Idly Pride, because Idly Pride kind of has the same premise. But here's the difference. I tried watching Idly Pride because idol shows, they're usually the first thing I try to watch whenever a new one comes out. But Idly Pride, the premise just sounds so boring. And plus, the main point of view is going to be in the manager character, who was friends with the idol who also had died. How do I put this? Usually when the main focus of the show is on the manager character, very rarely can they do it good. Like, when they did the Nijigasaki season of Love Live, technically it was in the point of view of the president of the club, Yu, obviously, but at least Yu has a personality, and she's used more as a foil to branch to the other characters. I mean, why the other characters are important as well. So that's why Yu works. When I tried watching the first episode of Idly Pride, I was like, I don't get it. And maybe I'll rewatch it or try to rewatch it again somewhere down the line, but right now I'm not inspired to. But what inspired me to watch Selection Project? There is no middleman. Suzune is the foil. Like, even though she's a part of the group, she's the main reason why, all the girls do the things they do. And she's the one who basically reminds them, remember why you're here. Remember you love doing what you do. And because she's a singer herself, she gets it. She knows, how it is to work as hard and then to make it so far and you feel like you're not working hard enough. That's what I like about Selection Project. And I just hope, there's, I don't know, a season 2 of this show or something, because these girls make really good music, too. But what I fear is that they make these idol shows, and then, they don't release anything else. And it makes me so sad. Especially because I thought this originally was a game, also, because a lot of these idols, they have, music, but they also, release it in form of, mobile games. No, this was just a entirely original project, which kind of adds to the this is an Idly Pride ripoff theory. But, I don't know, I'm just hoping that there is a season 2 of it, because I would be binging that shit, the entire time. And now we enter the very last category, and there's a few of these too, which I call, the season classics. These are shows that are going to be remembered for a while. Remembered by who? I think that's up to your interpretation, but at least for me, these are if you haven't seen these yet, you gotta watch these, ASAP. So the first one I have on my list is obviously Love Live Superstar.
私は歌が好き。ずっと歌っていたい。なんでもない時はいくらでも声が出るのに。
The first season came out, a couple seasons ago. I think during the summer, I believe. It's the official third installment, but people call it the fourth installment anyway, because people treat Nijigasaki like they're a real group anyway, plus their anime came out way before Love Live Superstar did, but I digress. So, Love Live Superstar, for those of you who are unaware of the Love Live lore, I mean, if you've been watching my channel, and you obviously about my videos that I talk about Love Live, you know what the Love Live lore is. So, in this series, it takes place where all the girls in the show are entering their first year, because this school was a reestablished educational building. So all of the characters or all the students that show up there are going to be first years, because they are the first class of this reestablished school. So you have Kanon, who originally was auditioning for the school to be in the music program, because throughout her whole life she has loved singing, she has loved performing. She wants to be a singer. She wants to be an idol. That's what she wants. However, the problem is that she has a really bad case of stage fright. So when she goes to audition, she kind of blacks out, freaks out, and she flops her audition for the music program. So she's still accepted into the school, but she's in the general education program instead. So, of course, she wallows in this because she really knows that she can do it. Like, she wants to be a singer. She knows what she wants, but she's not going to get it because this fear is just a really bad thing. So her next comfort is when she sings by herself. So on her first day of school, she's listening to music, she's singing. That's when she meets Cuckoo, who's a transfer student. Well, not exactly a transfer student. Like, she moves from Shanghai, China, to Japan because she also wants to be an idol really, really badly. Like, she's basically your foil. She's your Hanayo, she's your Nico, she's your Ruby of the group. She loves idols. It's just the difference that she's Chinese. So she meets Kanan, and she's through a misunderstanding, because when Cuckoo gets really excited, she speaks Japanese. No, she speaks Chinese because she forgets that she's in a different country. So when Kanan's like, I have no idea what you're saying, Cuckoo's like, oh my god, I am so sorry. When I get excited, I go back to Chinese. I don't know why I did that. I'm so sorry. Like, that's really funny. So she basically meets Kanan, and she basically tells her, I overheard you sing, and I want to create, like, this school idol club, and I want to be a group. I want to perform in Love Live, so will you do this with me? And because Kanan had stage fright, she's like, no thanks, I'll pass. But of course, then you have your stereotypical, like, student council president who hates idols. That's Ren, even though she's not the student council president at this point yet, because the school had just opened, there's no student council yet. But her role is that her mother is the founder of the school. So because her mother is the founder, Ren thinks that she could do whatever she pleases. And she does her damnedest best to make sure that this school idol club doesn't happen, because Cuckoo is also a general education student at the school, and Ren is in the music program. So Ren says, as an argument, if general education students are making a music-based club, then it's going to interfere with the music program at the school. Which, I don't know how that works, because they claim that the two programs are supposed to be intertwined, but basically Ren's making it sound like that, the music program students are much better than the general education programs. Why? Because I'm the daughter of the founder, and if I get made it into the music program, that means I'm better than all of you. Like, I did not like Ren at all when I first met her. I mean, she sort of had the same personality as Ellie and Daya, and I could not stand them for the life of me. But anyway, you know what's gonna happen. If you know anything about, like, Layla, that's the name of the group, and anything that happens to the 5 girls that are in it, Ren's gonna end up joining, and then they also gain 2 members. Chisato, who is Kanan's childhood friend, she's basically the Kotori and the Yo of the group. And then you have Sumire, who's basically the Nico of the group, I guess, but she is much better than Nico. This is a character who actually knows what she's doing because she's a child actress. So Sumire wants to join the group because she thinks, being an idol, that would get me more exposure. While Chisato just wants to be in the group because Kanan's in it. But also Chisato is very good at dancing, and they need the choreographer of the group in order to survive. So basically Sumire and Chisato work as the choreographers. I mean, Ren also is a choreographer because she does ballet, but they really rely on Chisato throughout the whole thing. So she was bound to join anyway. Again, I can't spoil too much of this either, but what I can say in comparison to the other 2 Love Live series, Nijigasaki doesn't really count because it's a completely different thing. But in comparison to School Idol Project and Sunshine, they really go a different route for this show. And from the plot, or at least the year of the characters, I think they're going to make this show have 3 seasons instead of 2. Because they start out as first years, then you go to season 2, they're going to be second years. So I'm assuming with the 3rd season, they're going to be 3rd years, and that's where it's going to end. But with how they started, I am going to say I think this is more of a slow burn. When I say slow burn, I'm saying that the year passes by faster. Because normally you have the 2 seasons, but that's because you have the 3 first years, 3 second years, 3 third years type of formula. But because they're all first years, they don't need to worry about that. So they can just travel through the whole year of Love Live activities and be fine. But I think the slow burn, like, works in its favor. It also, it had one of my favorite Love Live songs of all time released in this anime, and that's Wish Song. Wish Song, like, is to die for. It made me cry, like, a whole ton of times. I mean, if you want to get into Love Live, I highly suggest you watch the two, series first, School Out Project and Sunshine, before you watch Superstar. Even though Superstar kind of is its own thing, but it does heavily rely on, like, the two other series in order to get there. But if you haven't watched Superstar yet, I highly suggest you do. So then I have my next anime on the list, that's Nomad, but I basically call it Megalobox Season 2, because that's basically what it is.
壊しちまったんだ。てめえの手で何もかも。人生を無駄に浪費し、さまよい続ける罪人。あんたがノマドか。
Maybe I should explain what Megalobox is first before I get there. I don't know if you guys watch Megalobox, but Megalobox is basically the evolution, like, technological based version of boxing. So you basically have, like, this tech that, like, does the boxing for you, but you have the main character, Joe, who all his life has done, or at least for the majority of his adult life, teen life, he's done, like, underground, like, megaloboxing to, like, gain some money because he's, like, from the slums. It's almost a, like, Rocky Balboa type story, if you know what I mean. So if you want something to compare to Rocky Balboa, plot-wise, this is sort of it. So Megalobox 2 takes place years after the first season. How do I put this? Because I do think it's a classic to watch if you watch the original Megalobox. But things have changed dramatically for Joe. I think it takes place 7 years after the first season of the show does. Like, Joe has almost gone completely off the rails again, and it's due to the fact that his mentor unfortunately passed away. And I'm trying not to spoil this, but unfortunately this happens in the first episode, so I have to say it. Like, his mentor has passed away, so Joe is basically on his own. Like, the famous Joe that he was before, like, he's basically disappeared off the face of the planet. While he's, like, nomading, because that's where the title Nomad comes from, he ends up in, like, this Latino-type village, or Latino community, in which they're about to lose that plot of land because some rich people want to develop it into, like, a mall or some richer property or something. So they want to get rid of these people that are on it, but that means they're going to displace this community who's already struggling with money as it is. So the leader of the community befriends Joe, and because he knows Joe was, like, a famous megaloboxer at the time, he basically asks him for help to win some megaloboxing tournament, because if he wins that tournament, that means they make enough money to save the community and so that the rich people don't buy it off of him. And that's the first half of the series that Joe's involved in. So he's helping this underdog, basically training him to become, like, the next, well, not great exactly, but, like, he just wants to be enough to save this community. Like, I really cannot spoil what happens in the second half of the series because it directly impacts what happens in the first series, or in the events between the first and the second half. And if you guys really like Season 1, I'm not going to say what happens in the second half of Season 2. But, again, if you've seen the first half of the first season of Megalobox, I think the second season is definitely worth it. It's a lot slower and a lot more different of a tone than the first Megalobox was, because if you, like, listen to the two soundtracks of the shows, they are entirely different, and that's done completely on purpose. I think it does the change very well, but it's just kind of jarring. So if you guys have not seen it yet, but if you want to, and you've watched the first season, just beware of how jarring it's gonna get. Next time oh my god, how many more of these do we have left? I am so tired. But the next we have is actually the only Chinese anime that I have on the list, but trust me, it's actually worth it. I cannot pronounce the Chinese title to save my life, so I'm just gonna say the English title, which is called No Doubtin' Us.
一国之后，我在后宫修身养性，成何体统？
I don't know how many of you guys watch like live action dramas from Asia, but if you know anything about live action Chinese dramas, they are pretty out there. Like, they're pretty over the top. It's kind of like watching a soap opera, except it looks like it's trying to take itself seriously, which is kind of weird. So, No Doubtin' Us is basically the animated version of those historical period dramas. And the premise of this show is you have the emperor of this kingdom in China, and he recently got married to the general's daughter. And the general's daughter is not your typical general's daughter. Like, she knows how to fight, she's basically a tomboy, she doesn't know pretty much anything about royal affairs. But the reason why they married is because it's to empower the army, I guess, or the military, I guess. But the two completely hate each other because the emperor's uptight. The empress is too much of a tomboy. Like, they don't understand each other enough. But a spell accident, like, they fall into, like, the palace garden lake, and a spell in there causes them to change bodies. So it's kind of like a Freaky Friday situation. And when they find out they change bodies, of course they freak out. And they're like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. I don't, like, what are we supposed to do? So they seek help from the palace astronomer, who's the only person who tries to figure out how to change them back. But in order for him to have time to figure out how to change back, they're just gonna have to survive being in the bodies that they are. So while being in different bodies, the empress has to learn what it means to, like, be the emperor of the country. So he has to lead, like, the emperor has to lead all these diplomats who basically argue with each other on how to deal with the country all the time. And she's just sitting there like, oh my god, why are there so many men arguing? Make it stop. Like, if that were me, I would have shut them up in a heartbeat. And then the emperor, who's in the empress's body, is basically hanging out with the concubines, the consorts, and the dowager, who's the emperor's mother. And these bitches are abusive. Like, he doesn't realize how abusive they are to the actual empress. So when he actually witnesses this, he's like, oh my god, they're actually terrible. How did I not see this before? So this is the type of anime where, because they had their Freaky Friday situation, they're actually understanding, like, the hardships that each other has. And because they're already married, because, well, for political reasons, they're starting to understand that in order for their marriage to work, they do have to understand. It's like they're stepping into each other's shoes, and they do understand, like, what, like, maybe instead of, like, constantly fighting with each other all the time, oh, now I know the hardship you have to go through, and I know the hardship that you have to go through. And what makes it more important is, because the empress knows how to fight, that actually makes the emperor look better, because sometimes, like, she and his body has to fight off, like, assassins and stuff like that. So the assassins are like, oh shit, we didn't know the emperor could do this, and they run off in the other direction. It's just so funny and creative to see that. Like, I don't want to spoil too much, because there's, like, I think 24, 25 episodes of this show. And I would understand if you don't watch, like, Chinese anime, because it's really hard to find, like, a Chinese anime that's really good, because they're so heavily reliant on all of the live action drama tropes. But this anime actually does act like an animated show, and it actually works in like the trope's favor. So if you're interested in, like, romance, but if you want to get into, like, the Chinese, like, animation, like, I don't want to say industry, but, like, that subgenre of anime, I think No Doubtin' Us, I think, is a pretty good start. I wish there were other shows that I could tell you about, but either most of them are really boring, or they're just, they're animated really badly. So I wish I could try to help you, but I do think that No Doubtin' Us is a pretty good shot. Speaking of shots, good thing I have the sake with me. So in third place, we have Taisho Maiden Fairy Tale.
君は
私、名をゆずきと申します。玉彦様のお嫁さんになるために、まかり越しました。
So, when I first started watching this show, I didn't realize how so much hate went into this at first, and I didn't get why. Because they're like, oh, this promotes, like, child brides and, like, underage marriage. To which I'm like, guys, I think you're forgetting, first of all, this takes place in turn-of-the-century Japan. So this is, like, 1910 Japan, which this is an entirely different time period. So, but do I agree with it? No. Like, I don't promote, like, children getting married under the age of 18. Maybe that's because I'm American, but I digress. But secondly, the couple, first of all, they're not officially married, so no complaints there. And plus, they're both under the age of 18. So there's no need for you to complain. And third, and lastly, they don't do anything scandalous throughout the entire series. Because the dude of the show, he's just like, he realizes, oh, his father has sent him, like, a bride because he got exiled from the family for being in a car crash and he's basically disabled and he's not goods for the family anymore. And plus his dad's an asshole anyway. Like, he realized his dad brings him a bride who's, like, 14 going on 15 years old. And he's like, oh, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing anything with this right now. Like, in fact, he at first didn't want her to be there because, not in the fact of, well, first of all, he's like, oh, I just want to die alone because I'm disabled. I got nothing to do with my life. It's 1910 Japan. Like, his life is, like, miserable. Like, he was basically mostly blamed because in the same car crash, his mother died in it. So he's kind of blamed for his mother's death, even though they were not at fault of the crash. So he just wants his life to be done. And then the fact that his family then roped an innocent 14-year-old girl into this because she's sold off to be a bride because her father owed a debt to his father. So in order to pay off the debt, he basically gave his daughter away or sold her away to the son to be a bride. Because I guess back then that's what you did, and if you want to pay debts off, even though it's technically illegal, but it is what it is. But the dude's just like, oh my god, if I actually go through this and pretend it's a real marriage, I'm gonna ruin this girl's life. And that's the last thing he wants to do. So even though back in that time, she's expected to be treating her future husband like the traditional husband and wife, like she does all the cleaning, she does all the cooking, she does all the chores in the house, he's actually the one taking care of her because now he feels like it's his responsibility to make sure that this girl is not treated poorly or not going through the horrors that most child brides would have gone through at the time. So, like, she even's like, oh no, now I'm expected to, like, have sex with you too? He doesn't do that. He's like, no, we're gonna sleep in separate beds. You don't have to worry about a thing. Like, I'm not gonna, like, do anything to you until you're the appropriate age. Which, for around the time period, I'm forgetting what that is. 15, 16, I don't remember. But basically, the main male character is a good guy. Like, he doesn't do anything to harm this girl. Like, at least not intentionally. But overall, I wanted just to say right away, this is one of my favorite romance anime of all time. This show is just so fucking cute. The two main characters are so perfect for each other despite the circumstance. And it's because it's kind of like a Beauty and the Beast type retelling, except like the main male character is not exactly a beast. He's just not exactly disfigured, but he got disabled because of a car accident. And he feels like he's the beast because he is not treated like a normal human being. Like, that's what makes this so much better. And she's not kidnapped because he doesn't kidnap her, or he's not, but she is sent there as payment. So, sort of like Belle, she's there to take the place of someone else because she feels like she's obligated to. And then, like the Beast in the Disney movie, he doesn't want to, like, he at first wants nothing to do with her, but at the same time, he doesn't abuse her. Like, he does not, like, force her to do anything that she doesn't want to do. Like, all the chores that she does that on her own fruition because that's what she thought she was expected to do. Even though, like, most of the time, like, it's the guy who's like, oh no, I'll handle this, I'll handle that. And there's a lot of things he can handle, even with, like, I think he's unable to, like, use the one arm because of the car crash incident. But he's still capable. And I can't remember the side characters either, but I know, like, because then there's, like, the main lead character's sister, who's, like, I hated her at first, but she's fantastic. She grows to be fantastic. And then there's, like, this group of, like, there's, like, a thief who's, like, raising all these, like, kids, like, far away from this house because they're all poor and stuff. Like, he takes the kids in, and they're all living, like, normal lifestyles in this house. Like, they're all just such a joy to be around. But, like, the main couple themselves is just, like, the most perfect thing you've ever seen. Like, you can tell that they were just meant for each other just by looking at them. And just by seeing the things that they do for each other. Especially since the main male lead does, I think, more for her in terms of how a marriage should work. Because it's just more than what she assumes it's just doing the chores around the house, making the man happy. It's so much more than that. And he knows that. And he does his hardest to be not his father in that regard. It just, mwah, chef's kiss. So if you at first think you're scared of this show because of what people say, screw what the people say. This show is genius. And if you're looking for something adorable to like today or the future, this is the prime definition of adorable. So second place anime, we have Aquatope of White Sand.
終わっちゃった。私の夢。夏休みに頑張ってお客さんにたくさん来てもらう。
I think this is the most important anime that I've ever watched in my life. So the story starts with another idol who, instead of getting fired from her group, she actually quits. Because she didn't get the center role that she wanted, and because she didn't get the center role, she feels like she's lost in life. So she quits being an idol in Tokyo, and instead of going home to her family because she is not feeling like the at-home drama right now, she goes to this beach town. And while in this beach town, she meets a girl who's like a senior in high school, about to graduate, and she helps her grandfather run this like local aquarium that's on the verge of closing down. And the idol feels like in order for her to find herself, she wants to get this job at this local aquarium because she thinks working at this aquarium will trigger something. And what this anime does for me is, or at least in my state of life, this anime and how it does, or what it does, it's basically finding your steps into adulthood. And it's basically what teaches you is that when your first plan doesn't work, you go find something that will then inspire you. Because who knows, it's maybe the most unusual of things that could inspire you to do something that you always wanted to do. And it'll trigger that something. It'll trigger a new dream that you want. Because for the idol girl, she thought being an idol was the one thing that she wanted to do. But when she realized that was falling flat, she basically leaves that old lifestyle and she goes to find something new. And she knows that working in an aquarium is not exactly the best job in the world, but she basically discovers a new passion that she thought she never found before. And even when your passion ends up going in the direction that you expected least, because in the second half, it takes place in one part, but then it takes you to another location. I'm not going to spoil why, but it is what it is. But it's the whole second half of the anime that did it for me. Because as a young woman who's working in a job that she really doesn't like, and she feels like she's very under-equipped for, I'm also in the position of I'm finding things that I'm looking for inspiration. And Aquatope of White Sand is basically a message way of saying, like, even though life hasn't gone exactly how you planned it, there might be a surprise or two around the corner that could then give you that inspiration. It doesn't tell you what exactly, but once you find it, you know it's there. And I highly, highly, highly recommend Aquatope of White Sand for us people in our like early 20s, especially for those who are going out there to find our inspiration or to find our way of life somehow, to walk our first steps of adulthood. Because this anime has been the most reassuring thing that I never thought I needed, but I needed it. And if you're looking for that something that you need to, I highly recommend Aquatope of White Sand. Also, if you watch the English sub, and if you play Twisted Wonderland, the seiyuu who voices Apple also voices the main character's best friend in the show, and he's so adorable. And then, of course, now we've got to the number one pick, at least for me. And if you guys know me by now, you know exactly what that is.
Miss Honda, we don't consider it a burden, so please just accept.
You're the ones who let a girl into this house! Why is she even here?
I mean, come on, man. The show is 8th for best anime of all time. Personally, I think it deserves higher, but you're gonna have to argue with Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood fans and Gintama fans for that. I waited a super long time to finally put Fruits Basket on this list, even though the first season of the reboot came out in 2019. But if you add up all 3 seasons together, like if you watch all 3 of the seasons back to back, it's so worth it. I think if you're all anime fans watching the show or watching this video, I think you know what Fruits Basket is by now. Orphan girl lives in a tent, meeting this fantastical family that if they're hugged by the opposite sex, they turn into the zodiac animals. She ends up living with them because, well, she can't be homeless. But in exchange, she has to keep this a family secret. To which she does. But this show, I keep telling people, is so much more than what I've just said. Like, I cannot express to you how many times I've gotten angry because people thought that this was a reverse harem, because it is not a reverse harem. Like, never once had they mentioned this being a harem. And it's just because, at first, like, she's living with, like, 3 men. Just because a woman lives with men, it doesn't make it a reverse harem, for God's sake. Like, this is even more than, like, your stereotypical, like, high school romance, too. Because when I first discovered this series, I was in high school. And the manga originally came out, like, late 90s, I believe. So this is a very old show. Like, the original anime came out in 2001, but that was when the manga was still in production, and it wasn't even halfway done yet. So they ended it on a very weird cliffhanger that I did not like. And I mean, it ends, in the obvious, like, Kyo's true form arc, but, I digress. That's a completely different time. And I do plan on creating another video about Fruits Basket, so, I'm gonna put a full explanation into that. So this explanation is gonna be a little brief because this video is already long as it is. But Fruits Basket is one of those shows where you go into it thinking one thing, but you come out of it with an entirely new, like, perspective on things. Like, for those of you who think, you look at Toru and you're like, oh, she's just your, like, average, like, Jane Doe, like, Mary Jane, like, tropey female anime character who, like, has no personality whatsoever. That's not true. Straight from the first episode, that is not true. Like, she may be, like, the innocent Mary Jane type, but there are reasons behind that, and selfish reasons on her part, but there are reasons. And then you would also think, oh, the male characters are so tropey too. No, they actually have personality. Yuki and Kyo have more personality than any other male character I have met. Maybe except for Miyano from Satsuki and Miyano, but that's a different point, and I will get to that when I do the anime from 2022. What can I say else about Fruits Basket that doesn't really spoil much of anything? I mean, I also did that versus video of Fruits Basket, manga versus anime, or, like, no, not versus anime. It was, 2001 anime versus 2019, because I only reviewed like that in season 1 of the first show. But now that all 3 seasons have come out, I really want to make this video on Fruits Basket, the reboot as a whole, because it is a whole plethora of drama and like soul searching and the coming of age tale that is Fruits Basket. Like, I would, like, instead of this being like your typical realistic fiction fantasy, urban fantasy, or like romance drama type of thing, comedy, no, I would describe this as a full coming of age story. Like, not only a coming of age story for the female lead, but for basically every character affected in the show. Like, this show does its best at utilizing every single character that's in it. Even if that character is in, like, 2 or 3 episodes, like 1 or 2 episodes, like, they are utilized in the best way possible. Like, this mangaka, she knew exactly what she was doing when planning out this series. You can tell that every single character had their arc planned out before she even wrote, like, the next chapter. Like, the artistry that is Fruits Basket. Like, Aquatope of White Sand does this too, that I forgot to mention. But they utilize, like, every single character that gets shown to you on screen, they have an end game. They have a goal, and no matter where in the series they put it, they're working their way towards it. And it's the utilization of every character in it that not only does it create a story, it creates a world. Like, it creates a world that you look at, like, an anime panel or something, you know which anime that's from. And Fruits Basket is so iconic in this world building that there's a reason why like, if you look up, like, best shoujo or best, like, romance, best fantasy anime or series in a list, Fruits Basket is always up there. Like, even, this is like an over 20-year-old series, but people are still referencing it. The fact that a reboot was even made in the first place tells you that people got behind this series. Like, they treat it at the same level as Full Metal Alchemist when that had a reboot. Like, they treat this the same way as Dororo when that got a reboot, and also, I think, in 2019. Like, I think this upcoming few years is hopefully gonna be, like, the next decade of reboots, because there are some series that need a reboot so badly. Like, Shaman King got a reboot. Tokyo Mew Mew just had a reboot come out. But, like, this is gonna be the new decade of reboots, and I would like to think that Dororo and Fruits Basket were definitely the progenitors of this new movement. Because, I mean, yeah, you had reboots come out, like, I don't know, early 2010s, but there were not that many. But the amount of reboots that are coming out, like, from 2019 to now, I think it's ridiculous. And it just tells you that the nostalgia for these classic series are still there. And people want to see them get the credit that they deserve, especially since most of the manga were not even complete at the time. Fruits Basket. I cannot express enough. One of the reasons why it's one of my favorite series, it utilizes everything from the original source material, but then it also gives, like, so much foreshadowing that for those manga readers, you're the only ones who could tell. And you're like, yes, 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 thank you. Thank you. Like, I watched this whole Fruits Basket series, like, thank you. I think it was TS Entertainment. Thank you, TS Entertainment, for utilizing all of this. Like Fruits Basket is just a love letter. A chef's kiss love letter to the fans who have been stayed true to the series the entire time. The fans who literally have, like, fought in protest to get Fruits Basket the full series it deserved. And they got their wish. Like, TS Entertainment gave them their wish, and I couldn't thank TS Entertainment enough for it. So, Fruits Basket. Not only is it a must-watch classic, it is a must-watch classic that you should watch right now and waste no time on it. The full series is done, so you can watch it from the beginning of the first episode to the very last of season 3. You can do that right now, and I promise you, you will be satisfied. Oh, God. I can pass out right now from talking so much. So that is it for today's video. So if you guys enjoyed this, and thank you for joining me, please hit the like button down below. If there was any 2021 anime that I have missed and maybe I should watch, hit me up in the comments down below. And if you haven't done so already, please hit the sub button, hit the bell so you can keep up with all of my future videos. And don't forget to follow me in my social media down in the description box. I'm Cait, and it's been real. Ciao!